Okay, let's take a look at graphing quadratics. This time we're in Vertex form. And so when I got this question, I said, oh, good, Vertex form is like the simpler way to do this. So it's nice because vertex form means you can look at the equation and you can actually see what the vertex is for this graph. And so let's take a look. The vertex is always the opposite of the parentheses. So in other words, if this says -1, then it's going to be a +1. And then it's the number at the end. So 1, 4. That's it. That's the vertex. You don't have to use a formula. You don't have to do any solving. You can just look at it, which is really, really nice. So we're going to go right 1 and up 4 and put a point. And then we're going to just kind of sketch from there. Now we're going to plot a couple of other points just to be sure we're on track. But one thing we know is that if this number is negative, if there's a negative sign after the equals, then I know that this graph is going to open downward. It's not going to be upward like a little happy face. It's going to be down like a little sad face. So I know that it's going to be, something like this generally. That's not beautiful by any means. That's just an approximation and not a very good one. I know that the 2 is called a vertical stretch, and that just means that it's going to be stretching upward. And so, or in this case, downward, I should say. So that means it's going to be more narrow. So, not that narrow, oh my goodness, and not crossing over, but you'll get the idea when you see the nice graph on the screen. It's not drawn by me. So let's take a look at how we're going to figure out what the other 2 points are. So we got the vertex. We know it opens downward. We know it's kind of stretched. So it's not a typical U shape. It's a little bit narrower, a little bit closer to this vertex. So what I want to do is pull in a calculator, and I'm just going to plug in. Let me move this over. Dun, dun, dun. See if I can get to it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the equation, and I'm trying to decide. I guess I'll just type it in the usual way so that if you don't have this calculator, it'll be okay. All right, so I've got the -2 in the parentheses. Take a look. If our vertex is at 1, I want to pick numbers that are to the left and right of that. So 0 would be a good one, and then 2. So I'm going to figure out what the coordinates are at 0 and at 2. Okay, so I'm going to type in a 0 minus 1 squared plus 4. So this should match your equation. -2 times 0 minus 1 squared plus 4, and that ends up at 2. All right, let's do the same thing, and this time we're plugging in a 2. So I'm actually going to go back and change that 0 to a 2, but you could just type it all over again, right? Plug in a 2 where the x is, and notice that we get the same answer. Now, if we've done this correctly, that's what we should get. So we should have the same y values in both places. All right, so I'm going to plot those 2 points, 0, 2 and 2, 2. And that helps me to see, yes, it's opening downward. And let me show you the sketch of the graph on here. There it is. There's when you just sort of approximate where the curve of the parabola is. Parabola just means it's that U shape. Then that's where that will go. All right, so that's graphing in vertex form. Now, if you have this calculator, the MultiView, let me show you a way that you can see all of the points along this. You're going to hit the table button and hit clear if it has anything written on it. So table and clear. And notice it says y equals, which is what our equation says. And I'm going to type in our equation, -2 parentheses, but instead of plugging in for x, I'm actually going to type the x button, -1, and then hit the x squared button, and then plus 4. Okay, double check, make sure that you've got -2 times x minus 1 squared plus 4. Okay, now I'm going to hit enter. And I want to start at 0 because that's the first one that I'm looking at for the X value. Step is 1, auto is good. So after that, I hit enter 4 times. I'm just going to keep hitting enter until I get to this screen. And now I can see coordinate points for this function, which is really nice because take a look at what I have. I have 0, 2, and I have 2, 2. And in the middle, I have 1, 4, which is our vertex, right? Notice something else. Notice that there's symmetry above and below that vertex on the Y values. That's always going to be true if you're on track. If you've got the right vertex in the middle of the screen, you're going to see the same Y value above and below. It won't always be 2. It'll just be whatever the number is. It'll be the same on top and bottom. So that helps me, just sort of confirm that, yes, I did this correctly. I did change the -1 to a +1, and that's where the vertex is. So that's kind of nice. And I don't have to just type it in over and over again. So you always just go to table to do that process. If you have the MultiView, I'm sure there's other calculators that have that as well. I mean, the graphing calculator has where you can enter data on a table and kind of see that as well, obviously, because it's going to graph it for you and stuff like that. But if you're not using a graphing, just a scientific, then this one does this. So it's a nice feature. All right. I hope that was helpful. I'll see you next time.